Testing. 1 1 1 1 1 5 1. Movie mood. Oh, it's time for movie mood. Talking about movies. Gonna talk movies. Focus on this movie. Put down your phone. Oh, it's movie mood. It's movie mood. Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. That was Alex Van Horn.
And this is John Alberto.
This is Moviemood.
Yes, so we're continuing on from our previous episode where we were talking A through Z best movies in our opinion, based on letter.
Yep. So we've hit up A through M. Today we're going N through Z. Let's see what we got.
That's right. So what do you have for your N movie, John? I'm curious.
I had a hard time with N. I was looking and looking and looking, and ultimately I went with No Country for Old Men.
So did I.
Dude.
But you know what? For just because you did, I'm gonna go with North by Northwest.
Perfect. I'm so glad.
We'll switch it up.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's talk No Country for Old Men. Yeah. Why did you choose that one?
It is it's haunting. It is
For sure.
I think it's the Coen brothers' grimmest movie.
For sure. Yeah.
Maybe.
They've got some grim movies. I would probably say it's their grimmest. Their grimmest.
It's up there at least.
Yeah.
And wonderful performances. It introduced a lot of people to Javier Bardem.
Mm-hmm.
And it introduced me to Josh Brolin.
Yeah, I think a lot of people as well.
Yep. And as our Movie Mood audience knows, I am a huge Tommy Lee Jones fan.
He's such a grump.
I know. I love it.
He's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to be in Texas. I don't want to do that, Will Smith. What are you doing?
But if he wasn't giving advice to Will Smith would have been reckless.
That's true. He is the yin to Will Smith's yang.
Right.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah, No Country for Old Men is a big one for me as well, because I think it was, in that special year, 2007, and it was definitely one of the best of that year, and it got great Oscars, and it kind of introduced me to the Coen brothers around that time. I was like, who are they? And before I saw No Country for Old Men, I think I watched Fargo, and I was starting to watch a lot of other more serious movies. And that movie, just struck a chord with me when I saw it in theaters, and it was exciting, like an action movie, but it was also grim and existentially grim.
Sure.
And Javier Bardem's character, who has gone on to play a lot of movie villains, probably thanks to that, is certainly one of the more memorable, terrifying villains. And I just remember thinking, like, his character kind of personifies death in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like in the Seventh Seal a little bit.
Right.
I
just
think
follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I saw Seventh Seal that same year, and I saw No Country for Old Men, and just kind of like connected the dots for me. I was like, whoa. And it blew my mind.
Nice. Yeah. To your earlier point, I think it probably wasn't the first Coen brothers movie that I saw, but it was the first one that I actively knew I was watching a Coen brothers movie when I was watching it.
Yeah, that's true. Nice. What is the first Coen brothers movie you saw? Or do you think you saw? I'm having a hard time remembering.
I got introduced to the Coens late in my adolescence, so it might have actually been Burn After Reading. So I saw Burn After
Oh,
Reading, and then I saw, which came out after No Country for Old Men,
right.
and then I saw No
Yeah.
Country for Old Men.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had a book of their movies, like their scripts, and I read that first, and then I went and checked out Raising Arizona and Fargo, Miller's Crossing. And I'm not sure if that was before No Country for Old Men, but certainly it was around that time.
Right.
And
Right. Absolutely.
there's a lot
Um,
to talk about from that movie, though. There's a lot of good stuff other than just the badass story.
yeah, absolutely. It won Best Picture in, as we've suggested many times, a very, very great year for movies.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just the story. To your point, it's the themes, it's the metaphors. It's everything linked together in a very, very good movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that really like stood out for me was the sound design,
Mhm.
because there's very little music. There is music, but it's very subtle. Versus something like Fargo, which has pretty consistent score, or a Christopher Nolan movie which never doesn't have music going on. And it's really cool. Like the sound design, you can hear all these things that really, you know, accentuate the suspense. Like you hear a lot of the there's a scene where someone unscrews a light bulb and it's just really loud. There's all these like squeaky sounds that are almost like comical, like for comic effect in a way.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a very precise movie.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And you were going to say it. I know you love it. But you entertained me, and you changed your mind and said North by Northwest.
Yes.
It's a great Hitchcock film.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and why does that resonate with you? Is it just because it was a movie that started with N, or was it because is it
Well,
one of your favorite Hitchcock movies?
I think it starts with N, which is also is a big part of
What we're doing
uh,
here.
what we're doing. But at the same time, it is one of my favorite Hitchcock movies, and I think it shows you, like, I think when people who haven't seen Hitchcock, or maybe they've seen a few of the really big ones, Vertigo, Psycho, they kind of think of Hitchcock as this like big, dark, disturbing filmmaker, but he's actually not. He was very like almost making these proto James Bond or Mission Impossible movies
Right.
before any of those existed. And they can be really fun, but they also have the themes of Hitchcock are still there. Like these people who are guilty of crimes they didn't commit, and being hounded by gangsters or police or spies or what have you. And for all of that, North by Northwest, I feel like is one of the most fun Hitchcock movies for me.
Nice. Yeah. And to that point, he does make a lot of very fun movies. Um, The Birds.
Oh yeah, The Birds is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's delightful.
But now
It's
more and more, I'm starting to feel like the Birds is very prescient because I see a lot of birds out there. But
right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially in a city by the water, birds everywhere, man.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
season.
Nice. So
Yeah, The Birds is goofy though.
yeah, it is goofy. And what do you think of it's Cary Grant in North by Northwest, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Love Cary Grant. No, yeah. Yep, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cary Grant is great. I was talking to my cousin about him earlier. Yeah, he had some great films. I don't think it's my favorite Cary Grant Hitchcock. What am I talking about? Um, I just realized I have a new entry into the great movies that start with N, and that's Notorious by Alfred Hitchcock with Cary Grant.
Oh,
Yeah. That actually I have to say this I enjoy that more than North by Northwest.
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Hitchcock because I think it's the first time we've brought up Hitchcock, and it made me remember a movie that I will now introduce later down my list instead of a very bad movie that I was going to bring up. So
Awesome.
yeah,
We both had a hard time with these last few letters, especially Q and X. I don't know about you,
yeah.
but we may figure out what great movies we want to talk about.
Yeah. I think I found a good one for Q, but yeah, I'm
Nice.
not too proud of my X, but
Yeah,
we'll see where it
we'll probably
goes.
have the same X.
Nice. Um,
Um,
okay, so let's go on to O, and what do you
Hold
have
up,
for
yeah,
O,
but
Alex?
I would like to talk a little more about
Go for it.
Hitchcock as well. Yeah, I because I think No Country for Old Men is very Hitchcockian also.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it takes a lot from that, and yeah, I love Notorious. Notorious is super good. It's also has its silly moments, but it's more of like I don't know, it's just a cool movie, and it's very subtle, and worth checking out.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Hitchcock, despite the time that he was making movies, all the way from the 30s into the 60s. He's a
Mm,
very modern director,
hmm.
and it's very clear that filmmakers today, the Coens, Scorsese,
Oh
what
yeah.
have you, are all pretty significantly impacted by his work.
Yeah, that's the best kind of like older films, I feel like, are movies where you could watch them and they don't really age. There's
Right.
still, you don't think like, oh, this is a 70s movie, right? Like something like Star Wars, I think even is something that doesn't age for me. And that's the same with Hitchcock, Buster Keaton movies. They just feel like they're still alive when you
Mm-hmm.
watch them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
Which
good.
brings us to O.
Yep. What did you go with for O, Alex?
So I went for a pretty obscure one, but it's really worth watching, especially for you horror buffs out there. It's Onibaba, a Japanese horror flick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what is the premise of this movie?
So it's basically this director. He did a bunch of really good Japanese horror films, and Japan has some like really good, not only other genres but horror, and so, for some reason is a really a strong genre for that country. But it takes place during samurai times, and it's basically about this mother trying to keep her daughter away from this guy, and I don't want to give away too much, but there is a demon mask involved, sort of similar to Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Oh, classic of
Yeah,
1994.
yeah, and it's worth watching. I mean, it's just a fantastic horror film.
Yeah. You
Spooky.
said it's a Japanese horror film.
Mm-hmm. Yep, from the '60s, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How about you? What'd
Well,
you do?
I went with a movie from the 50s actually.
Oh, nice.
For it, I went with On the Waterfront,
Nice.
which was one of Marlon Brando's first. I think it was the first movie that he won an Academy Award for as an
Mm,
actor.
yeah.
Directed by Kazan, um, tells the story of corruption amongst the people who control the docks in this
Yeah.
city and the dock workers there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a pertinent movie. It is a concise movie, and probably most famously, it is a terrifically acted movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We got the I could have been a contender scene.
Yep.
And yeah, a lot of different ones. Marlon Brando yeah, he's pretty incredible. I feel like he he gets a lot of credit, but uh he's it's worth looking at his work. Like there's so many actors, um like I can't think of any one actor who like changed film acting like 100% other than Marlon Brando, because maybe Cary Grant would
Mm.
be the other big giant, but Marlon Brando. You just look at everybody else, like all the other actors in the 60s and the 70s, and they're all their style. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman,
I
and
think
they're
we're
all
kind of spinning off from our numbers here, but I think you can make an argument for Humphrey Bogart too.
that's true. Yeah.
Uh, just like, you know, earlier you've got these like leading men who are just like, these perfect people that like nobody
Yeah.
could be. And then as you get Bogart, as you get Brando, as you get Cary Grant, you get, more human characters, which for me anyways is always more compelling to watch.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And your fave Casey Affleck definitely is a prodigy of the Marlon Brando style.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He wears all of his emotion on his body. It's not just, in the whatever the face
Yeah. Not just in the face.
makeup. He does use quite a bit of makeup actually, but he's very like still is very effective with his body.
Yeah. Certainly uses a lot of facial hair in his
Mhm.
performances.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. A little bit of
Um,
stub.
all right. So Q's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm curious as to your cube. Maybe we had the same one. I don't know. What
We
did you
might. Um, we might, and I don't know. Mine is actually a Robert Redford movie.
Oh yeah, it is.
Same one. Okay.
Quiz show.
Yep. Great movie.
Yep. Yep. Me too. I haven't seen it in a really long time though.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it a few years back. I think it was one of the first Robert Redford directed movies that I saw.
Yeah.
Um, um, and basically, it is about a quiz show scandal in the 50s.
Mm.
But John Turturro's in it, Ray Fiennes is in it, and they are great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what brought you to quiz show?
Well, the letter Q, of course,
It's a
one of the
toughie.
best letters out there.
Like
Yeah,
Captain
well, quiz
Smallwood.
show's awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. And yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember it being really good, and it has two of my favorite actors, Ray Fiennes and John Turturro,
Yeah,
who are fantastic. And yeah, it's a true story about this quiz show where this guy was cheating and basically created this whole scandal. And it's all about, TV and truth and media and all sorts of stuff. So it's a great flick.
right.
Yeah.
So Robert Redford has had a pretty phenomenal career from
Hmm.
being arguably the movie star of the 60s into the 70s, and then becoming a really respected director, and ultimately he founded his own film festival, the Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
So do you think Quiz Show is among his best movies, or
I would say so. The only movies I can think of that he directed are A River Runs Through It, that one political movie which kind of sucked with Tom
Tom Cruise
Cruise.
and Meryl Streep?
Yeah, what was
I'm
that
trying to
movie
remember
called?
the name.
Lions
The
Among
Lion
Sheep.
in No, not The Lion in Winter. That's a great movie.
The Lion in Winter.
It's something with a lion, I think.
Yeah, it's like lions and sheep or something, or sheep and lions. Something.
Uh,
Yeah, that movie was no good. But Quiz Show and River Runs Through It are yeah, they're fantastic movies. Um, they're not my favorite to pop in necessarily. I think Quiz Show is probably my favorite, the most watchable for me of his movies,
right.
of his
Um,
directed movies at
oh,
least.
and then of course like Ordinary People and
Right. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, Ordinary People is great.
for
Yeah,
sure.
that's such a good movie.
Lions for Lambs was the movie
Yep,
that we were talking about, by the way.
I was close. Lions for Sheep.
Yep.
Are you sure it's not called Lions for Sheep?
Let me look it up.
Lions for Goats.
Some right. Yep. Cool.
Nice. Well, cool. We got the same one.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the letter R.
R. We'll
Which
probably have different ones for R.
definitely.
Um, mine is mine is my favorite sports movie of all time. There are two very good sports movies that start with the letter R. Although I could argue that one is not really a sports
There are
movie.
three.
Um, there are three.
Yeah, yeah. I might actually trade in that one for my great movie, but we'll see.
Nice. So I went with the one that is the actually the sports movie that starts with R, and that is Rocky. Um,
Nice.
Inspiring, influential, amazing soundtrack. Takes place in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is probably my second favorite city in the world, and um, yeah, Sylvester Stallone, love it.
What's your number one favorite? Is it Baltimore?
Baltimore,
Yeah, of course.
of course.
Baltimore. Yeah. Yeah, Rocky's great. Yeah. It's I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but it's definitely one of the I can see it's like one of the best sports movies. And yeah, it's one of the best screenplays about sports as well. Like
Yes, and
really,
it was
fantastic.
I believe it did. I don't know if it won the Oscar for best screenplay, but it was certainly nominated. It won Best Picture against very famously against Taxi Driver, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver would have been a weird one though to have it be best picture. It's
um,
such an offbeat movie.
yeah. But it is it's got the it's certainly the first Rocky anyways. And later Rockies certainly veer away from this, but it's
A little bit.
got that
Yeah.
it's got that moodiness of 70s film.
Oh
It
yeah.
is
Yeah.
it is certainly there.
Mhm.
And and I think it deserves recognition among among the great 70s films. And then I also do like the later Rocky films for different reasons, but I don't think that they are the great movies that the first one is.
No, and you can certainly see the change in like the mood of the era with between Rocky and Rocky 4. And Rocky 4 is pretty amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another thing I really do like about Rocky is that all of the movies really are kind of a time capsule of when they were released. Rocky One was released in I think 1976. You know, America was kind of down and out. There was
Yeah.
everything going on with oil prices
New
and
York.
Watergate and just everything. And then Rocky's just kind of this down and out guy who's given a shot. And
Mhm.
then eventually you do get to Rocky 4, which is at the height of just 80s excess.
Yeah,
And now he's fabulously wealthy. He has a robot.
yeah,
It's it's not quite the film that Rocky One is, but it is very, very fun to watch.
for sure. Yeah, and I watched it recently and just loved it
Yeah, I love
a
it too.
lot.
Yeah.
It's just insane and ridiculous, but it pulls it off. And Rocky One, like I really do love movies from the 70s because they do feel really authentic and really real.
Mhm.
And not like a and I can still appreciate like the 80s ridiculous movies, but I still love like seeing those movies that are like realistic and kind of show a story that could happen basically.
Right.
um
And
and
it's like the people that associate with Rocky, they're not good people. Like his best friend in the world, he's
the scumbag.
mean, he's he's abusive.
Hmm.
Rocky himself is he's employed by a loan shark.
Yeah,
So it's a very different movie than what you would get at a different time outside of the 70s.
for sure. Or even nowadays, I guess. I mean, comparing it to because Creed is a
Creed is
also a
great.
fantastic movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Creed compares well with the first one because it's very realistic as well.
Yep.
Which brings us to my letter R. So I'm actually between two because I just realized there's one movie that probably is was more impactful than the other.
Mhm.
And so I chose Ron, which is a Japanese samurai epic, one of Kurosawa's last. And I had the privilege to watch it in a theater in 4K, and that was like mind blowing. But I would say that watching it on a TV can be a bit slow,
Mhm.
but it's a very beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a samurai epic based on King Lear.
Oh wow.
But it's really like the cool thing about Kurosawa is like you can tell he's really throwing money at it and he's not using a lot of special effects. And so you get these massive, scenes with uh, samurai battles and castles on fire and just insane stuff.
Wow.
It's beautiful, very
I,
beautiful.
to tell the truth, I did not realize that. I've only my knowledge of Kurosawa is fairly limited. I've only seen a few of his movies. I did not realize he was making movies into the 80s.
Yeah, he's interesting. I've been trying to go back and watch his earlier movies. It's just kind of tough because they're kind of not that good. But he had to phase between his time when he was making Seven Samurai and Rashomon, where he stopped, and he actually went to the Soviet Union and made a few Russian movies.
Mhm.
But in the '80s, George Lucas and Coppola started funding his movies, and there's a movie he made before that Coppola and Lucas funded basically, and that was like his practice run before he made Ron, which I haven't seen the other one, but he was helped out by the American filmmakers who obviously were super influenced by him, Coppola and George Lucas
Right.
especially.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
It
But what did you ultimately go with?
Well, I had to think about it, and I forgot about Remember the Titans. I really like Remember the Titans.
I
I
would
mean,
remember the Titans too, man.
I can't like watch it now because like I watched it so much when I was a kid, like so much,
I,
and it's just embedded in my psyche now. Just like Denzel Washington and Ryan Gosling's in it, and I mean that's a pretty like I think I saw that a bunch of times in theaters too when I was a kid.
yeah.
I was like
Yeah. Of
into baseball. You were probably into baseball then.
course, I was in
Um,
baseball,
yeah, so yeah.
dude.
Remember the Titans.
That is not what I thought you were going to say. Remember the Titans is great.
Yeah.
When I was bringing up two great sports movies that start with R, and one wasn't really a sports movie, I was thinking of Raging Bull,
Oh no, that's not
which is
I
not
don't
a
enjoy
sports movie.
watching that.
No, it's heavy.
No. But I mean it's
It's
great. It's a
great. It's
great,
great.
great movie. Yeah.
It's very heavy.
But it's not one of my favorites. And it's definitely not one of my favorite Scorsese's, although I can see why it's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's cool that you brought up Remember the Titans.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's I was thinking about sports movies that start with R, and
Uh,
that's a big one. Did we
oh,
skip P?
did we skip P?
We did skip P.
We sure
Oh
did
my
skip P.
gosh, we don't even know our ABCs, bro.
Oh my goodness gracious.
All right, let's do P.
Okay. I did. Oh, I put a Hitchcock movie on here before I realized another Hitchcock movie later on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I went with Psycho.
Oh, nice.
Yep, great horror film. Not
Yeah,
really a horror film, but a great thriller.
for sure.
Yeah, tells a story in a unique way. Um, I think the movie kind of speaks for itself. I really can't add anything to it.
Yeah, it's a pretty. I feel like it's a basic. It's almost like a perfect movie.
Yeah,
I would say in structure and how it's made, and it's not. I would say it's I don't know. Is it one of Hitchcock's more deep movies? I don't know, but
I don't know if it's one of his
well
more deep movies, but it's
well
it's
constructed. It's well
it's
made.
incredibly well constructed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just how it manipulates you like in the first few minutes of the movie, there's a character who you think you're gonna follow, and then it changes your expectations, and it's constantly, um, there's a lot of twists.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and it's great.
And
It's spooky.
yep. And we all know that I'm a softie for a good score.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, Psycho is a fantastic one.
Hmm. Speaking of good scores, my P movie I chose was Paris, Texas.
Interesting.
Yes.
Nice.
That is, yeah, one of my favorites. Directed by Wim Wenders. I think it's probably my favorite of his movies. And it just feels like it's one of those movies where so many things you feel like came together to make it a great movie. Like so many people were involved that it's just like this gem. And you got Harry Dean Stanton giving
Right.
the performance of his life. Um, and I think just from that and Repo Man alone, like if you just watch those, you'll just love Harry Dean. And of course, there are his, documentaries he made a few years before he died, and he was a very spiritual man, and him and David Lynch, I guess, were good friends in that regard, and were very spiritual.
Mm.
And also, he was kind of underrated in his time until around the 80s. I mean, the guy was hanging out with Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper back in the day, but
Yeah, I was just reading up a little bit on the movie. I think he had starred in not starred. He had appeared in 100 movies before he
tons
had
of
made
movies. Yeah,
Paris, Texas in '84.
yeah,
So he was around.
yeah, and he just has like a face that he doesn't really need to do anything, but just seeing his face and his like very subtle expressions is very. You're just like, whoa, it's
Right.
very um, commanding performance, I guess, presence.
Yeah. The role that I always think of him in is actually in Alien, the first Alien
Oh,
movie.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget. Yeah,
Yep.
he's he's very Harry Dean in that movie. He's
Yeah.
just like chain smoking the entire time, and he has like
Got
a
his hat.
trucker hat.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I like about Alien is that all the people are like working class in space.
Hmm.
Yeah, which you don't really see a lot in the. I don't think you see it in the other Alien movies.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I've only seen the first two, but
Yeah,
I really love the first one, and the second one is pretty solid.
yeah, I love them both. They're
Yeah.
great. But yeah, the score of Paris, Texas also is fantastic. It's just like a slide guitar that this guy did, and it's just perfect.
Oh wow,
Perfect.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, I highly recommend it.
Nice. How did we forget P? How did we both forget P?
I don't know, man. Um we're going too fast, I
Mm.
suppose, or
Russian.
rushing.
Rushing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rushamon.
Rush, another great R sports movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've only seen that in Spanish. I
Nice.
should see it in
Yeah.
English.
It's
Would-
probably Ron Howard's second best movie, actually.
Is Apollo 13 number one?
Apollo 13, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's another movie from my childhood.
Yeah.
Which brings us to S.
Yes.
S is exciting.
This is great.
Yeah, what you got?
I went with probably my favorite movie of all time, which is The Shining.
Oh hell yeah! Is
Yeah.
it your favorite movie of all time?
It's pretty up there.
Nice.
I don't know if it's my favorite. I don't think I have a single favorite movie of all time, but horror is probably my favorite genre, and The Shining is my favorite horror movie.
It's so good, and there's so much to talk about. Like, yeah, the score, the sound design, and Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm.
The best Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, and it really is an epic horror movie, and takes it above and beyond like other Kubrick movies. And yeah, I don't know. It's a solid flick.
Yeah. Um, and it's not just Jack Nicholson. it's Shelley Duvall and a child actor named Danny Lloyd play
Right.
equally important roles in the movie, as well as Scatman Crothers,
Right.
who shows up throughout the movie.
Mm.
But it's a very small cast, and it's masterfully helmed by Stanley Kubrick. Um, terrific movie.
Yeah, and similar to Eyes Wide Shut, and this is probably why there are all those conspiracy theory nuts that go crazy about it, but it does feel like there's not it feels like there's not really a message, which makes you want to look for the message. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Yeah, it feels like I'm missing the word, but it just feels like kind of a mysterious movie in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're like, what is he saying? Like,
Right.
yeah,
And I know that this has been I know that this has been mentioned before, but there is a great documentary called Room 237 about not about The Shining itself, but about all of the different thoughts that a variety of people have about the Shining movie and conspiracies about it, whether it whether it is you know Americans traveling west and their treatment of Native Americans, whether it's Stanley Kubrick's confession that he staged the moon landing,
right.
um, a variety of different things that people see in this movie.
Well, I think Kubrick was in general, if you read about him, he seems like he was a paranoid person and probably kind of a neurotic person. At least a little bit more than a little bit. You know, he didn't fly and as he was getting older, and he just stayed in England after what Clockwork Orange or 2001. I think it was 2001. And yeah, so it does feel, man, there's the word is there. I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue what I think The Shining is, but it's great. It's a great movie.
Right. What'd you go with?
And okay, so I've got three.
Three.
S is a good no, a good letter for movies. So the one I wanted to talk about, the one that I feel like would be less talked about and a great movie thing, is the movie Something Wild by Jonathan Demme. And so I wasn't really a big Jonathan Demme fan until I saw this movie, and then it just kind of like blew my mind. I was like, oh my
Mhm.
god, like I totally didn't think about him as like a director that I enjoyed. I mean, I like Silence of the Lambs. I like his Talking Heads concert movie, but that movie was just kind of like it's. It feels like a cool indie movie from the 80s that just has a lot going on. Like it's funny, and then halfway through the movie, it totally changes the tone and the mood. It becomes this entirely different movie with Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta appears and just changes everything. And it has an awesome soundtrack by what's her face? She was married to Lou Reed. David Burns on the soundtrack. Um, a lot of good bands, a lot of good music, and they
Nice.
all have these variations on Wild Thing, the song Wild Thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the IMDb page for this movie right now, um, and a movie that kind of like I'm just looking at the poster and the time frame of the movie and the general synopsis of the movie. Does this remind you at all of the Scorsese movie from the '80s, After Hours?
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
it has that like fun freewheeling thing, but it's also like it's kind of a portrait of like a little bit of like New York in the 80s. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Nice.
And
No,
it's fun.
that's a cool choice. I I certainly want to check it out. And
Yeah, and also Jeff Daniels. That
yeah,
Jeff Daniels is awesome.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
no,
go
of
wrong.
course.
He's one of the best.
And Jonathan Demme's made some great movies, whether they be like cinematic movies or concert films.
Philadelphia also.
Yeah, Philadelphia is wonderful.
Yeah.
Of course, The Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
feel
but
like
yeah. Now that I'm looking at his filmography, I'm realizing he knows how to use a soundtrack,
oh
because
yeah.
Philadelphia also has a fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah, he had some really good music videos also, and I think he stayed pretty connected with, I think he made some Springsteen music videos and New Order and all kinds of stuff. The Justin Timberlake concert
Yep,
movie, one of his last ones.
yep.
And yeah, he's good. He just seems like that was the movie that kind of like woke me up, and I was like, oh, he's awesome.
Nice.
And my two other ones are kind of like great movie basics, but The Searchers and Seven Samurai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have not seen The Searchers, but I have seen Seven Samurai, and that's actually what I thought you were going to go with for this one.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were. I'm glad you went with you know a movie that I had never seen, but
Yeah, everybody knows
I now,
about Seven Samurai and The Searchers. It's no
I now
secret that
want to
they're
see it.
they're they're super good. But Something Wild is kind of underrated, super underrated.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for T, I'm not going for an underrated movie at all. I'm going for
Oh, I know what it is.
a basic, basic, basic great movie, and it's okay. I'm fine
It's
with
okay. Yeah, you can like it's about taste. We're about taste here.
that. I am
Whatever you
going
like.
with Titanic, Alex.
Nice.
Yeah,
Why Titanic?
Titanic is fantastic. James Cameron is a wonderful director. He makes very good action movies, and um, he takes a really beautiful love story and turns it into a really exciting action movie about a pretty tragic event with Titanic. And let's see, um, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet are both fantastic actors. They have both evolved since this movie.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Billy Zane as the antagonist is a delight to watch on screen. He is
Pretty
just,
bad guy.
yeah, he's one of those he's one of those characters that are just like so ridiculously evil and just so awful that like in real life it would be like terrible, of course, but on screen it's just really fun to watch.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what his good qualities are. I don't think he
In
has any.
Titanic,
Yeah.
yeah, he's got no good
Yeah, I
qualities.
don't think he has any.
Yeah,
At least Javier Bardem has good hair. That's that's his redeeming quality.
he's rotten.
Yeah. And Bill Paxton is in it. Bill Paxton is one of my faves.
Oh, of course, yeah. Bill Paxton is in that movie. In the
He's a James Cameron standby, I feel
right,
like.
he kind of serves as the framing mechanism for the movie.
Hmm.
Um,
It's a pretty epic movie. Like I feel like in the 90s and in the 2000s, a lot of movies were trying to do the whole like Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago thing where they're like going to make these epic movies. And I like that trend. I enjoy 3 hour movies, I'll wear my adult diapers and sit through The Irishman.
yeah,
And Titanic is good. There's a lot of things going on. The sinking of the Titanic is really like masterfully done, and you can see a lot of money that went into it for sure.
yep.
But yeah, it's a great movie.
And it was the it was the highest grossing movie ever made for some time
Mm.
until James Cameron surpassed it with Avatar.
What's up with that? Why does he have to be the big guy? Why is
Oh
he got
no,
to
he's not the big guy anymore.
It's true.
The brothers who direct the Avengers movies, they make all the money now. The Russos.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
Jim will be back. He'll be back.
yeah, with the Avatar sequels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be worth delving into James Cameron movies a bit. My favorite is Alien. my favorite is either probably between Terminator and Aliens, one of the two.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but I do like Titanic, and I will admit I do like Avatar, but only I will only watch it on a plane.
That's the screen that you're not supposed to be watching Avatar on. That's
I know I didn't really like it in 3D. I think I felt sick
mm,
when I saw it in 3D, but then when I saw it on a plane, I was like, this is dope.
yeah. I it I remember I saw it in theaters. I remember there was a if I remember correctly, there was a significant snowstorm when Avatar was released in the United States.
Mm,
So it did not make, I mean, it made a lot of money in the United States, but it didn't make like huge amounts of money in the United States. But it really was the foreign box office that
right.
really led it to be.
And also, I guess the 3D glasses were a big part of it. I guess a lot of people, isn't that funny? Like 3D always comes back around at some point and they're
Yeah,
like, this is it. Like,
yeah,
this
it
is
was
going to change everything.
maybe the late 2000s to like 2015. 3D was all the rage. I remember I went to see a re-release of Titanic in 3D actually on
Oh.
the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the actual Titanic. So
What, did you enjoy that in 3D?
yeah, it was great.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool. So you could probably guess my T movie.
I need a subtle hint.
El
Oh,
tercero hombre.
of course. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that was not so
I was
subtle.
also thinking about Transpotting, but I mean, yeah, The Third Man has been, yeah, it's a big movie for me. It's good.
It's a yeah,
Should rewatch it
it's a
too.
masterpiece. It really is. You know,
Yeah. And it's similar to, Paris, Texas. What can I say? It's like it's just got like all the best people doing everything. You got Orson Welles acting in it, Joseph Cotton, they're perfect together. Alita Valley, she's great. Screenplay written by Graham Greene, directed by Carol Reed. The soundtrack is on a freaking zither, shot in Vienna after World War II, which is like just looks beautiful. So yeah, it's a badass movie. And it's also, like it's like the anti Casablanca a little bit. It's like
mm,
Casablanca, it's like, I think this is gonna be a good situation. Like this is good. And then the ending of
yeah,
Third Man is just like, oh, uh, bummer.
a whole lot of darkness.
Yeah, it's dark. It's dark.
It's
But
very
the I think the soundtrack and just like because there's a lot of comedy in it, lightens it. And it's kind of like a tragic comedy a little bit.
yeah, nice. So
Um
when did you first see The Third Man? Who introduced you to that movie?
I think I saw it at my grandparents' house
Wow.
when
Okay.
I was like maybe 12 or 13. And I remember thinking that it was a different movie, that because my dad obviously is always watching stuff about World War II. I just kind of grew up with that in the background. So I thought it was a different movie that I'd seen him watch before, which I've since watched, and it's not really a great movie other than it's filmed in Berlin after World War II. But The Third Man is, and I just remember being like sucked into it and being like, "Oh, this is that movie he's watching all the time," but it was not.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a movie that I keep coming back to. It's perfect, and it's interesting. I in a film class, there's somebody who did it as a project, and she's like, "Yeah, this movie's like it's the best movie ever," and I was like, "Yeah, I know it is. I agree." And the teacher was like, "Why? Like, why that movie?" And she was Polish. She's from Poland,
Mm,
and I don't know if it has to do with like it's about this American who's like lost in Europe, and everybody else is like, "Go home," and he's like, "No, I have to solve a mystery. I'm here, blah blah blah." Like almost like a tourist. I feel like it started out as being almost this like anti-American thing, and then Joseph Cotton made it like better and made it like more believable in a way.
mm. You know, one of the things that really stood out to me for this movie for some reason, and I also very much like the Third Man. It probably didn't have the impact on me that it had on you, but
Mm.
it's terrific. It's a masterpiece. Is the cinematography of the
Oh
movie?
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gorgeous.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it was also one of the first. I don't know if this is true actually, because I've always liked old films. But it was one of those movies where I was like, it didn't feel like an old movie to me. Like the
right.
shots are like very super modern, and you don't feel like, this was made on a sound stage or whatever, or this was made in, you know, back in the day. You feel like it's of the moment, and yeah, beautiful black and white, and it makes you realize why, yeah, sometimes black and white is better than color. Like I couldn't imagine that movie in color. It was
Right. Yeah.
terrible.
Right.
Uh,
Nice.
And then you've got, of course, Orson Welles. Like I didn't know anything about Orson Welles before seeing that, and then obviously afterwards, I've seen lots of his movies, and it's movies that he directed, and he's a big deal too. And he's the best part of Mank, and Mank Mank sucks.
I'm working my way through it. I'm about 45 minutes into it. I've
Yeah.
been about 45 minutes into it for a month now.
Spoiler alert: they make Citizen Kane.
What?
Yeah, they do it. He
um,
finishes writing it.
word.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Um, but yeah, that's my T choice. Or Transpotting. Transpotting is cool.
Transpotting is fantastic.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Love it.
Which brings us to you.
I had a hard time with you.
I have a good one for you, but yeah, I had a hard time too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I like the choice I ultimately came up with, um, but I had a hard time finding one.
Hmm.
I went with Up in the Air.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. That's
Yep.
a good one. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I forget about that movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a good Clooney flick.
Yeah. I forgot about that movie too, and then ultimately I had to just like, you know, Google list of movies that start with U, and
Like
I
that one.
was like that one, great movie. It's topical, especially in 2009 when it was
Hmm.
released. But
Why is it topical for 2009?
so so in the late 2000s, the United States was in a pretty tough economic spot,
Yeah.
largely because of the the housing crisis, the subprime mortgages, things like that, and it and so people were losing their homes, people were losing their jobs, and this is a movie where George Clooney plays a consultant who is hired by companies to go out and fire their
That's
employees.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And Danny McBride's in it also, right?
I believe so. Yeah,
He gets Does he get fired? I don't know. Or there's like a wedding he goes to. Yeah. I haven't seen it in a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but it is a Jason Reitman's a terrific director.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, um, he made he made one of my favorite movies that I forgot for this list. Thank You for Smoking. He made Juno.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Oh
yeah,
yeah, I think Thank You for Smoking might be my favorite of his.
yeah,
It's really good. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
That's cool. It's a good choice.
thanks. What'd you
I
go with?
chose a very different movie called Under the Skin.
Is that the one with Antonio Banderas, or am I completely off base?
No, that's The Skin I
Okay,
Live In,
right.
by Almodovar. No, this is a movie with Scarlett Johansson where she plays an alien seductress, if you will. And it's good. It's really spooky. It's very like Kubrick esque. It's almost like a sci-fi horror movie in a way. Yeah, and it's an interesting movie. I only saw it one time, but it definitely was like a very memorable, like I couldn't really forget that experience. And it's good. Like if you want to see a Scarlett Johansson movie that isn't the Avengers,
Right.
has some challenging stuff, then definitely Under the Skin.
Was it pretty heavy?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was heavy, but it wasn't like really hard to watch. I think it was very beautiful. Also, really good cinematography.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nice choice.
yeah. That was another one where I looked up movies that start with U.
Okay. Nice.
I'm guessing we both have the same V.
So I didn't have the same V until a minute ago.
Okay,
I
yep.
I had a really bad choice for V.
I want to hear your bad choice though.
The Tom Cruise classic Vanilla Sky.
Oh, cool.
Abre
I haven't seen that, but I've seen the Spanish, the original Spanish.
los Ojos. Yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. But that, yeah, is it Vertigo?
It's Vertigo.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, Vertigo is yeah, it's great. And I think it constantly goes up on the list of like the best movies ever made. And it's certainly more entertaining to watch than Citizen Kane, I think.
Yeah, I
Um,
think for me it is, which is embarrassing because I completely forgot about it. But it is. I think for me it is Hitchcock's best movie.
yeah, I think for a lot of people it is too. And I would say it's up there. It probably is. Yeah. Um yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of like I was thinking about it, like if you compare that and The Searchers, I guess like John Ford and Hitchcock, I feel like Vertigo is his The Searchers. That's his like great movie that's dealing with the same themes that he's always been dealing with, which is just, like paranoia and conspiracies and suspense
Right.
and love and obsession. And I think that's the movie where it's really, instead of being something that's like a side product of the story, especially with the way that a lot of the women are portrayed in his movie, that it's kind of front and center in
Mm.
Vertigo, and it's kind of like, ugh, like it's kind of uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's very, uh, very honest about Hitchcock, I guess. Just
Right.
as The Searchers is kind of like John Ford looking at himself and his own racism in a way.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Vertigo is awesome. And it's spooky and chilling and beautiful and bleak.
Beautiful score.
Yeah, beautiful score. San Francisco.
Yep. Sam.
Although I did show it to somebody and I won't say who that was, but at the very last shot they laughed out loud. So the devastating final moment.
Oh lordy.
But I mean, sometimes the things that are shocking like that, there's like kind of no other reaction
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. But it's cool, and it's another one of those movies, yeah, like Psycho, where the plot, changes drastically, like from the first half to the second half, with that
Mm.
twist.
Yeah. It almost feels like kind of like North by Northwest, just maybe because of all the tension. It almost feels like, like a 60s spy movie
Oh yeah.
before 60s spy movies were a thing. It came out in the 50s. So,
Yeah, a lot of Hitchcock movies do feel like they could be transposed into a James Bond movie or in a John Le Carre thing.
right.
Um, yeah, and that's what I like about it, the mystery. Although the people don't spend too much time like trying to solve a mystery before it's revealed. Like it's interesting. It's not like an actual like murder mystery because you end up at some point finding out before Jimmy Stewart knows.
Right.
Yeah, which creates the suspense.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great one. Definitely a um foundational movie.
Hmm.
Which brings us to W. I'm interested to hear your W.
My W is a film from my childhood.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's one that I watched a lot and I love it. It's whimsical and it's magical and it's Willy Wonka.
Oh, cool. I was
Yeah.
almost gonna say think Wizard of Oz, but No,
It's not Wizard of
no.
Oz.
Wizard of Oz is spooky.
Wizard of
Willy
Oz
Wonka,
is.
that's a good choice.
I saw it like once. I saw Wizard of Oz like once. It was fine.
I watched it a lot as a kid. I think. I mean, it's a spooky one. It's a frightening movie. I just watch
Oh,
old
it's also
movies.
spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Willy Wonka's awesome.
Right.
That's one of the best. I remember I had a good experience watching that the first time. For some reason, but my dad was just like, "We're not gonna watch that. That movie sucks." Like, he just never had seen it, and then we watched it with a family friend, and like I enjoyed it, but I he was also like, "Wow, I didn't know this was good." Like
It's
for some
delightful.
reason, he just had it. Yeah. Yeah, it's delightful. And Gene Wilder, like, there's not enough people like Gene Wilder out there in movies. I think he's kind of
Yeah.
like a 70s guy, but
Yeah. Gene Wilder is a pretty brilliant comedic actor.
definitely. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And he's kind of sadistic a little bit uh in Willy Wonka, but it's funny. Like it's a dark comedy more or
Yeah.
less. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. But very memorable, very good, good music. Yeah, great.
What'd you go with?
So I went with Wayne's World,
Nice. Cool.
and there's like a new Wayne's World trailer out there. Well, not a commercial, on the YouTube adverts, and it made my day because I love Wayne's World and Wayne's World
Wait,
2.
are they like making a new Wayne's World, or are
No, it's a
like Mike
commercial.
Myers and Dana Carvey reprising in a
They're
commercial?
reprising themselves for a Uber Eats commercial with
Nice.
Cardi B. Cardi B is their guest on their show.
Rad.
Which they should just make that into a movie. Like I would watch that.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, Wayne's World is great. I mean, I just love I do really love like the really good SNL movies, and Wayne's World is, yeah, probably one of the better ones.
Yeah. SNL movies can be kind of hit or miss.
Yep. They
Yeah.
can. Like Caddyshack is pretty great. Um Wayne's World, Austin Powers, yeah.
Yeah.
Um Yeah,
Well,
Anchorman. I guess you could make the argument Anchorman is SNL.
so I mean, like I guess for me, I have to distinguish what was originally like a Saturday Night Live
True.
skit versus like what's a movie that had
That
a
had
Saturday Night Live
SNL.
cast member in it. Because when you get into like a movie that had like a Saturday Night Live cast member, and you've got some really great movies there. You've
Yeah, there's
got
a lot. Yeah, that's true.
Anchorman, but like for the ones that are based on skits, like the top notch ones that come to mind for me are like Wayne's World, The Blues Brothers.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I forget about the Blues Brothers. That's a
yeah,
really good one too. Yeah. Yeah, but Wayne's World is fantastic. It's
nice.
a very entertaining flick.
Yeah,
Brings us to these low ones. So now we're at X. So what's your X movie?
and I had a hard time with X. I had
Okay.
a ridiculously hard time with X. So I
Me
said,
too, but I gave up.
I just said X-Men First Class. It's
I
the
said
best of the
X-Men too. I
X-Men
mean,
movies.
I think X2.
X-Men, yeah,
But
X2.
you know what? You can make the argument the Malcolm X movie was called X for a while. So you can make the
Was it?
argument. Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
So you could say X, Malcolm X. But
I mean, yeah,
X-Men's
if
good
I knew
too.
that that was an option, I would have gone with Malcolm X.
Yeah. Well, I think it was like on the poster, it was advertised as X.
Uh,
But it's called Malcolm X.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Honest-
good.
Ultimately, I went with X-Men First Class because it had a cool Cold War aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like X2 because that was like kind of when superhero movies were starting to become serious with like Spider-Man and Batman Begins and that whole area before all the we got flooded with superhero movies, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember X2 is
Storm.
kind of like one of the first darker ones that I saw
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that worked as a movie.
But here's the main question about X-Men I have for you. Who's your favorite X-Man or X-Woman?
Favorite X-Man. I like Cyclops.
Mm,
he's a bold leader. He's got cool eye powers. Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
Beast.
Oh, Beast.
He's hairy and he reads.
Do you like the Kelsey Grammer Beast, or do you like the I think it's Nicholas Holt.
I don't think I've seen the movie with Nicholas Holt, but probably Nicholas Holt.
Nice.
Yeah. But I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen every single X movie. But I like X-Men in general.
Word.
Good stuff. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen.
Yep.
You're wrong.
And those roles were recasted in the ones that take place earlier really well, actually. So James McAvoy took over the Patrick Stewart role, and Michael Fassbender took over the Ian McKellen role.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, pretty solid.
What are we at now? What's after Y? So we might have the same Y.
You think? I don't know we do.
Okay, what's yours?
Mine's a comedy.
So is mine.
It's a Gene Wilder movie?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we got the same one.
Yeah, Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, terrific. Great. It's not really a horror comedy. When I think of like horror comedies, I think of movies like An American Werewolf in London, which is a really, really great A movie for those of you who want to check it out. But
I didn't choose that.
Yeah,
true.
But I think Blazing Saddles is probably my preferred Mel Brooks movie, but I love Gene Wilder, and I think I prefer Gene Wilder and Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, those two are definitely my favorite Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks he was a really great director when he was doing stuff. And he's we can thank him for giving David Lynch, work for the most part. And he's a pretty important film guy. And Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein I guess they came out like the same year, but they're both super good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Gene Wilder is fantastic. Yeah. I was also going to say Yojimbo, the Kurosawa movie, but I think I'd rather watch Young Frankenstein than Yojimbo.
I think when I was making this list, I was going with movies that I would want to watch.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So, we're about taste here.
What?
We're about taste here. About
right.
What we like. Good taste.
Yep. But yeah, Young Frankenstein is a terrific comedy. Shot like a 1930s horror movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've got it's not just Gene Wilder. It's Cloris Leachman, who passed away recently.
That's right.
Peter Boyle's in it.
Yeah. Terry Garr.
Yep.
Have you seen The Bride of Frankenstein?
I still haven't seen The Bride of Frankenstein. I've only seen the original Boris Karloff Frankenstein.
It's so much better than the original Frankenstein. It's so much like it almost kind of verges on being a Young Frankenstein movie. Like it's so goofy. Yes, it's really worth watching. I heard about it and I watched it, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It's fantastic. The meme of Frankenstein smoking comes from that because it's a cigar. But yeah, that's a good one. Which brings us to Z, the final letter.
And we probably have the same Z.
We probably do.
Yeah.
Is it Zodiac?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, let's talk Zodiac.
Is Zodiac your favorite David Fincher movie?
Oh yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Absolutely. Is it yours?
It's not. It's up there, but it's not my absolute favorite. The Social Network is my favorite.
Oh yeah. The Social Network is awesome. Yeah, it's great. With Armie Hammer, who's been in the news.
Holy smokes, dude. Like, who would have thought when they were watching Sorry to Bother You that
was real.
Was like in real life.
Yeah, he was too good and Sorry to Bother You. Too good.
Holy smokes, man.
Yeah, that dude is nuts. I feel like half of it is like he's trying to get attention or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about it really.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing that stands out about Zodiac for me is I brought this up many times during this two-parter we're doing is the tension in a movie,
Yeah.
and Zodiac does it top notch. Like it's a
Yeah.
very long movie. It's a bit of a slow burn, but it keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't know if it's a slow burn. Like I really love I yeah, it's a very engaging movie for those yeah, like 3 hours or whatever. And I love how it builds cuz like the first half is really pretty kind of grisly and is, pretty violent, and then, the last half kind of like Psycho is all about the suspense and the tension. And I love the story, and it's almost um like Goodfellas and Psycho. I know that sounds like really like Hollywood screenwriter ish, but it because it encompasses this really long period of time, but it's also pretty suspenseful and well made.
Right.
And
And
yeah.
I like the perspective. You've got the reporters looking into the case. You've got police going after this person and they have no information about who they are.
Mm.
It's yeah, it might be David Fincher's best movie. It's
Mm.
it's pretty it's pretty up there. And I think one of the things that I really like about it is, you know, the time frame that the movie takes place in. It's even though the movie came out in the 2000s, it takes place in the 70s.
Yeah.
So it kind of has that vibe of 70s movies that you and I really
Yes.
like.
Oh yeah, like
Would you agree with that?
Chinatown or All the President's Men. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are actually two really great examples of movies that it goes along the lines with.
Oh yeah, or The Conversation. I think they have literally the guy did the soundtrack for The Conversation. Did that one? That's another one of my faves from the 70s.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you talk about The Social Network because really quick, because we'll just tie it up. I feel like where Zodiac really is good is because it does feel pretty accurate to what actually happened and what those people went through.
Mm,
Whereas with The Social Network, it does feel like it's really good, but it does still feel like a Aaron Sorkin thing.
sure.
This is like probably how that really was. But I don't know. I haven't read the book or really read much about it. But I don't know if it was super exciting to be Mark Zuckerberg, like that exciting. But maybe it was. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I think for me, when I go into a movie, especially one that's based on a real person or a real event, I have to understand that I'm not going in there for
History.
an exact account of what had happened. I want a generalized account of what happened, and I want to leave the theater feeling like I was told a compelling story that was, presented to me well.
Right. I can hear a part of myself also saying like that's BS because I like the movie JFK, and the movie JFK is not
Yeah.
a
Um,
historical movie.
no, I think the reason why I prefer the movie The Social Network is because it's probably the Fincher movie that I've seen the most, to tell the truth.
Mm.
And until maybe a week ago, I was big on the Winklevoss twins in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no, what happens
Or
now?
I mean, I don't know. Just having your name being Army Hammer, I don't know what that does to a person, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. It just is
I think that's his
shocking.
real name too, which is pretty.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our alphabet. If you guys have any movies or any kind of genres or directors, actors, whatever you guys want us to talk about and research, we can do that. So just let us know, put it in the chat, and we will be talking later. Well, see you guys, and good luck, good night, and good luck out there.
Thanks, everyone. Be well.